Hi, good afternoon, Dr. James Smith Jr., the Dr. James Show. Welcome back. Welcome back. Yes, we are looking forward to another great show. Where did the summer go? It's almost September. Are you kidding me? Big difference between this summer and last year's summer. Last year's summer seemed like it took forever, and this one is flying by. But welcome back to the show. Looking forward to it. A great show again. And again, if you have comments, thoughts, please feel free to put them into the chat room. We want to make sure that you feel like you're a part of this experience, not just someone who is watching the experience. You want to star in the movie as well. Our guest today, yay, can't wait to bring her out. Allyson Ward, she's an author, she's a speaker. She is the president and CEO of the Capstone Group president. But before she did that, wow, you'll see. Rather than me go through all her superlatives, let's watch her sizzle reel.
What we need to do is move from a me to a we focused society. If I focus all my energy getting that project done, I can get it that much faster.
I said to Mark, maybe you should try this agreement frame that Allyson taught us. Mark said, well, can't hurt. And it was so simple. I mean, it's like, duh.
But it was so empowering, absolutely empowering.
I would encourage you all to familiarize with the program and see which of the program, the elements of the program, you can take back to your own communities. We got to have a game plan. We don't just start off doing things without an end goal in mind.
Wow. Allyson Ward, welcome to the Dr. James Show. Welcome. Great to see you.
Hello there. Good to see you as well.
Make me feel like dancing.
I know, right?
Whoa.
You never have too much dancing.
Hey, watching that sizzle reel, we talk on this show about being your true, authentic self. That sizzle reel really highlighted the genuine person that I've gotten to know over the years. What happened in order for you to say, I'm going to be me all the time?
That's a huge loaded question there. It's a great question. So, at one point that wasn't how I showed up in the world. When I look back on my life, things seem to be going great. You do all the things you're supposed to do, right? All those things that your parents promise you and society says, if you do this, you'll be happy, you'll have success. Well, I did those things. I went to a great undergraduate school, Boston College. I pursued an MBA at an amazing university, University of Michigan. Go Blue.
Go Blue.
Go Blue, I love it. And then, I got married, had a couple of kids, lived in a beautiful big house downtown Chicago. I mean, things were great until they weren't. My little one was, 1.5, my mother became very ill. My mom and I were like, we were like this. When I can't tell you. In fact, I always tell people, when most people would call their parents in like for the weekend or something, and then mom or dad would like babysit so you could go out, I'd get a babysitter so my mom and I could go out. Right? We love to go out and spend time together. And so the loss that I felt, and she was 59, she was very young.
Wow.
Rare lung disease, and just kind of came over her, and all happened very quickly. And I was just really lost. And then shortly thereafter, I realized that, what? This is not how I want to live my life. The man I was married to, who I call my starter husband,
Did you say starter husband?
I did. It is how I refer to him. But you know what? That just wasn't where I saw myself. I said, what if I only have 22 years left in life? Like, what if this is all I have? Is this the person I want to spend those 22 years with? And the answer was no. Now, it's not that he was like, oh, this horrible person, right? I mean, there were things obviously I didn't care for about him, but I don't want to paint the picture that he's just this monster. That's not my point. But I also knew that what if I died at 59 years old, right? Then this is definitely not, and also more importantly, like being a mom is my passion. And for me to show up in the lives of my girls the way I wanted to show up, the example that I wanted to set for them, I was not going to be able to do it if I stayed in that marriage. So the next thing I did was get divorced. And then things were better, but not great, right? They just weren't great. I had a great job at IBM. I had a very good salary at IBM, but it wasn't fulfilling my needs in terms of getting up out of bed. Like, you know, that like in so many people, like, you know, they don't have that sense of like, get up in the morning and jump out of bed. Right.
Absolutely.
And like, and I know you do, because I've seen how you are, right? Right. There's nothing like that feeling, but it's just like, oh, I have to get to this job today. You kind of, you know, get up and, you know, walk over to your computer or whatever, you know, it's like, you really, it's a horrible feeling. And actually, you know what's worse? It's not a horrible feeling. It's just not a great feeling, right? When you feel horrible, right, you're motivated to take action, right? But when you just feel kind of, it's not great.
Yeah.
Most people, most times, do not take action. And I probably wouldn't have either, with the perspective of what if I only have 22 years left, and how did I want to show up for my daughters? That forced me to take action.
Wow. We're only into the first 10 minutes. You dropping pearls. You're dropping pearls. Now, Allyson, you did what I call the IBM Boise Cascade 25 years. The past 10 years, you've been working with Tony Robbins as a senior instructor. But of late, you've been working in a capacity to help women find their voice.
Yeah.
What inspired you to do that, and how are you doing it?
Yeah, thank you. That's a good question. So as you mentioned, I was at IBM for many years, and one of the jobs I had was the EA. It was like kind of a developmental role to the vice president of federal sales. And what that meant was that I pretty much ran a lot of the teams, did presentations. It's kind of like you do the work, then you go to the meeting, keep your mouth shut, right?
I remember those days.
Right?
I remember those days.
Right. And he's getting all the accolades. I mean, I had an amazing manager and mentor in this, I should say, Bruce Williams at IBM. He's incredible. So I was very accustomed to leading the team. It was mostly men on the team. And one day, at the time I was working out of the Baltimore office, and they had a training on women's assertiveness. And I was curious because at the time, IBM was not really doing a lot of investing in training. So I thought, I'll just go check it out, right? I'm curious. And I remember the guys on my team, I said, hey, just want you know, I'm going to be out of the office this morning, so I won't be available. And they're like, oh, where are you going? And I said, oh, well, I'm attending this workshop on women's assertiveness. And they're like, why? You don't need to. Right?
Hashtag duh.
Right? Again, I was curious. So I went to the class and I saw a couple of things that I found very disturbing. One was that they asked a question, the facilitator asked a question in the middle of the meeting, which said, how many women, and I should say there's about 70 women in the room, and they were women who were very accomplished in the field. Some were consultants, some of them were scientists, they were patent holders. I mean, these were, you know, pretty
accomplished,
great,
yeah.
right? Very accomplished. They asked the question, how many people in this room are uncomfortable to speak up in a meeting? And I would say 75 or 80% of the women raised their hands. I was blown away, right? And I really was, I was shocked first. And then, to be honest, as an IBM stockholder, I was kind of like, hello, excuse you, right? I'm paying you for your brilliance, right?
Yes.
Thank you. And you're not showing up as your best self. And I just didn't understand that. And this is not unique, excuse me, to IBM. this is something I know that goes on now in other places in corporate. The second thing that happened was in the beginning of the meeting, the senior location executive kicked off the meeting. And this guy comes in, and we were in a horseshoe. He comes in and he connects, and he really, like a great speaker, right? He owns the room.
Right.
At the end of the day, they had this senior female executive who I know is an amazing executive, highly regarded. I knew her. She came in, she stood at the back of the room in the corner and essentially apologized for her success. And this is at the women's assertiveness training. And I was like, right? You know, so to be honest, that was many years ago. It didn't cause me to act immediately. I think in some mind, I thought, these people must be an aberration, right? I just, because I couldn't personally relate to it. But again, and perhaps I probably wasn't always that way, but I had already begun my transformational journey, right? I had already invested and worked with Tony and worked with people at Johns Hopkins in organizational development. By this time, well, I hadn't done my coaching coursework yet, but I had already started the transitional process. And I think my parents always raised me to have a voice. So I think I was in self-doubt. But I think I'm coming full circle now. I've been working with companies to help, all people, my business on the kind of corporate side of things. I go in and do facilitation of meetings, and you've got a tough topic, a change you're trying to introduce, and you need somebody to bring the team together. I'm the person they get to come in, right? Tough conversations, I'm the person they get to come in. And it's this passion continues to come up for me to serve women who are trying to figure out why my career isn't going the way I expect it to figure out why I'm not getting the salary that I truly believe and I deserve, but seems to elude me, right? How I'm not getting the things in life that I want to get. So it's just tapping back into, which is the same thing with my book is about. My book was about parenting, right? There's just the things that
the book, Please Don't Come Home Except for a Visit, a field guide to creating independent adult. Yes. We're going to show a picture of that on the screen so people can take a look and go to Amazon and pick it up. Please Don't Come Home, a field guide to creating independent adults. Wow.
Well, let me just say this. It's a mouthful, and I love my children. I have a very close relationship with all my children. In fact, right now, if you see that suitcase sitting in the corner, my baby just graduated from Howard University, and she came home, and she's here for a month. She's going off to Spain to live for a year. She moved out of her apartment, and all of her things, what you can't see is all of the things piled up in the corner here, or hopefully you can't see, but they're all there so that, as she transitions with us for a month. So they're always welcome home. The idea is that we want to raise independent young adults. So if they do come home, it's not because they're living on our couch with no other options.
That's good. Allyson, it's ironic that you and I would say, had a turning point during an assertiveness session. Because when I went to corporate, initially, I lost my voice. This passionate, assertive, educated athlete who couldn't wait to get to corporate began to go along to get along, didn't raise my mouth, didn't want to mess up. I wasn't playing to win, I was playing not to lose. And my manager at the time had me develop a workshop on assertiveness. And that's when it all came back, seeing that I was being passive aggressive, very seldom assertive, blaming other people, going victim. And that was my light.
Wow.
Since then, it's been amazing for me. Let me ask you about women in general. What are some of the unique challenges that you believe women deal with in the workplace, and how do you help them with those challenges?
So they're definitely unique challenges. There's what I call kind of the external challenges. One is time, right? Now you might say, well, Allyson, we all have time constraints, right? There's only so much time in the day. And we do. The challenge is that most often the woman is the primary care provider in the family. So in addition to, I've worked all day, right? I've worked all day. I want to do a great job there. And then I'm going home and I have another full-time job. particularly in this last 15 months, right?
Yeah.
I mean, women have been impacted at a disproportionate, experience than the rest of us, right? Of their male counterparts. So time is the first one. They feel unrecognized.
Mm.
And again, it's
what does that feel like? Is that feeling unrecognized? Is that a story we're telling, or really we're not?
No, it's really not a story. It's, first of all, we all have a desire to be recognized, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? We all want to say, hey, great job. And it might not be great saying a great job, right? If you know the love languages, you might want a gift, you want some type of recognition, some words of affirmation. But again, particularly women, and because I have worked with so many single moms, because that was my story, right? It's that, like, I'm killing it at work. I'm raising great kids. I'm working my butt off. And it's like, nobody's there to say, hey, great job.
Right.
I see you. People want to feel seen, right? We can often feel isolated. And again, I'll go back to my experience. One of my favorite jobs at IBM was leading a team of like 100 people in the sale of a supercomputer. And I was the least technical. I'm not technical, right? But interestingly enough, my manager said, nope, you're the right person. I want somebody with excellent communication leadership skills, and he hired me into the role. I didn't even know what they were talking about half the time. I had internal teams, external teams, our partners in Intel and Mellanox, right, to do this job, but it could be very isolating. Oftentimes, if you don't have a more assertive personality, which you've already identified, right, from my statistic and study of one here, right, that oftentimes people don't. So you don't have those connections. And, in my situation, I'm flying back and forth to Boulder, Colorado, and Cheyenne, Wyoming every week from Baltimore. And it can be very isolating. I don't have anybody I connect with, right? I didn't connect on I was the only woman, or one of, very few women. I was leading the project, so there might be some isolation from that. They were all technical. I was not. So there's a lot of reasons why. And then I'm just going to say it. The last one big reason that I would call out, chauvinism. Now, I mean, it exists, right? To say that it doesn't exist.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And I really am someone, and I totally appreciate your saying, is it a story? And we don't want to get caught into things. And I'll be the first person to say, like, we are not going to get caught up in somebody else's, business. And the reality is sometimes we have to work that much harder, right? And so the mansplaining, what are you doing here? That all goes on. I mean, that's just the reality.
Of late, some of the sports journalists on ESPN have been sharing that they're feeling that right now. And a couple of them have left over the years.
Right. Now, that's obviously an even more male-dominated environment. But the truth of the matter is, again, over my experience at IBM, in sales and even marketing, depending on the project, you can really feel that way. And so then you feel even more isolated. You take it internally. Like, I feel like I'm behind because I can't catch up because I'm doing my work stuff. I'm doing my home stuff, right? I can't catch up. And then still, again, and it still exists, like growing up in an environment where girls are not valued the same way. And so sometimes it's just this whole institutional thing that you're fighting against. I don't care how amazing you are. And you have to, so kind of philosophically, the problems are, I've got to work twice as hard. Yeah. And I've got to be twice as good. And I know I'm going to just put this out here as a Black person, right? I would imagine perhaps those are some things that you face before. So as a Black woman, like I was raised that way. My parents all like, you got to do twice as much to get half as much, right? You got to be recognized. And so some of those things that you can take them internally, and then it becomes your own story and limiting belief. And that's some of the work that I do to help people. I'm not saying some of those issues aren't real. I'm not saying chauvinism isn't real. They are real, right? And at the same time, there are ways to overcome them. And there are things that you can do.
Allyson, let's stay with that, with the question that's in the chat room. The person says, specifically, what suggestions would you give to a woman to find her voice. So that's what you're doing now. You're helping women, career women, find their voice. This person is saying, what does that look like? What does it sound like? Are there 3 tips, tools? Help us out.
So a lot of things you can do. Let me just give you one. I'll give a kind of an in-depth example on this. One of the things that you can do that I find most valuable with my clients, some of them are just skill building, right? How do you develop specific communication skills? How do you overcome objections? Which we often think of those as being sales techniques. And here's the thing, we're all in sales.
Yes. Yes.
We're all in sales.
Yes.
Whether you're selling your manager on an idea, whether you're selling your spouse on taking you out to dinner, whether you're selling your kid on cleaning up your room, we are all in sales. So first, let's recognize that. And then what are some of the basic skills like feel, felt, found? Or, there's just certain things, something the couple that are referred to as the agreement frame. Like, how do you just, I'm going to touch on something else and I can go into that a little bit more if you wish.
I do at some point want you to talk about the agreement frame because it helped me out.
Okay. And then the other, I was looking at the chat box in my head, the other thing I wanted to say about the other thing specifically, one of the things I have my clients work on. In life, it is always faster to get somewhere if you can model someone else's behavior. So just think about that for a minute. Rather than me going out and reinventing the wheel, some of the things that I've done, I'll tell you a story about a woman that I modeled. I remember years ago, I was actually working at a Robbins event and we had this crew director by the name of Warren. I remember the way she took command of the room. She's got 150, unpaid volunteers who have to work together to help Tony do what he does on the stage. I remember sitting there looking at her like, what the heck? I mean, how is she doing this? Everyone's falling in line. Everyone's giving her their attention, and she's just very confident,
right?
Very caring, right? Not like in a do it this way. There was no kind of a bossiness about it, to a very loving way. And I'm like, wow, this is a really great example of what it means to have feminine power. And to, like I said, to not have to be like a guy, right? I don't want to be that way, right? That's not who I am. That would be inauthentic, right? So it's about finding that place where you can be authentic and feminine. So I saw this woman, Lauren, and I just started watching her. I started taking on, now listen, I did not want to be Lauren. Let me be clear.
Yes.
It wasn't that I wanted to be Lauren. I didn't want to be Lauren. I wanted to be me. I just wanted to be a different version of me, incorporating some of those skills.
That's good.
So I started watching her. How did she stand? See, it all starts with your physiology. People think, oh, I have to do, it's all these tricky skills and the communication skills and the agreement, all those things. Yes, those are important, but it's physiology first. Am I getting the right energy, right? Am I breathing, drinking water? In fact, I'm going to drink a glass of water right now because I've been talking so much. So everybody else.
As you're drinking, you talked about physiology. I know you are big on smiling. Yes. And research suggests that children laugh or smile 400 times a day, where adults laugh or smile 20 times a day. Huge disparity.
That's an excellent point. And, that is a physiology thing for sure, that allows you to really engage your, engage your physiology. It's the quickest and easiest thing to do, because the truth of the matter is sometimes we've all heard the term fake it till you make it, yes. Right? And sometimes just by putting it small, like if you were to say, hey, Allyson, how are you? I'm never going to say, oh, I'm okay. Which is what most people say. I'm going to say, I'm amazing. I am great. I'm having a fantastic day. I'm going to give you something like that. And if you'll notice, I use my body.
Yes.
I am putting it into my body. I'm never like, oh, I'm okay. I'm okay. How are you? Right? So it's really, you have to walk your talk. You have to convince your body of how you feel. And even if you're not feeling 100% there that day, the more you condition it in, right? So first of all, you're getting a role model and you're identifying what are some of the things that this role model does. I'm going to start practicing it, because at first it's going to feel awkward. I haven't done that before. I didn't walk that way before. I didn't make sure I was taking care of my body in the same way, right? Then I'm going to be doing some things to focus. What am I focused on? Are there some beliefs that I need to change? So even though I said that chauvinism exists in the workplace, if my belief is that I cannot get ahead, then that will become my reality.
Yeah.
What's the belief I need to hold for me to get the outcome that I'm after?
What is the belief I need to hold in order to get the outcome that I'm after? That's powerful.
Yeah. It's in fact, in my house, I have a sign which reads, "Do not believe everything you think." Because it's not, again, it's not to say that we don't have certain challenges. It's not to say there's no racism in the United States, right? There is, but I can't be a hostage to that. There's a difference.
Let's stay with the signs. We have a couple that I think you're familiar with. I'm going to show one, then show the other.
Okay.
Let's take a look at these signs/quotes.
Okay.
Again, that I think you're familiar with.
Yeah.
Live in such a way, if anyone should speak badly of you, no one would believe it.
Wow. Yeah. I love that one. It definitely speaks to my heart. You have every day, every interaction, you have an opportunity to show people who you are. Every day, in every way. And, you know, there's going to be people out there who want to be naysayers, you want to make sure that people have plenty of references, or even, right? You have references. And even if you have a bad day, because we all have a bad day, right? Then someone's going to say, "Oh, that's so unlike her," right? I know who she is. This is how she always shows up.
That's right. That's right. How about this one? Let's show the next one. Might make you chuckle a little bit.
Well, you know, it's funny. Not only am I a fan of Notorious RBG, the truth of the matter is, I mean, one of the things, and I know you're passionate about this as well, is speaking on diversity. You know, and my perspective really comes from, I mean, there's some brilliant studies out there that talk about why it's so important to have diverse thought when we're making decisions. We can look at the past couple of years at Dove, at Prada, who failed miserably in the marketplace because they had some racially offensive things that were shown. And the truth of the matter is that I always say the problem is one of two things. It's not they put the commercial out, it's that they didn't have somebody in the room who was making decisions that said, you know.
Or they didn't listen to that person.
Well, I'll say three. So they, one, didn't want in the room. Two, the person didn't feel comfortable to speak up. Right?
Yes.
Not just enough to be in the room. You have to create the space that says, we invite all opinions, even if they're unpopular. And that is the management team's responsibility, right? And then three, they didn't listen to them.
That's
so
powerful.
in that order. Yeah, so yes.
That's powerful. Let's question in the chat room. I saw a couple. Let's see. Hi, would you consider yourself an alpha female in the sense of just being absolute, having assertiveness and a strong personality, bold, because these are qualities men typically are intimidated by? What are your thoughts about that, Allyson?
That's a great question. So, I think, I'm not sure I'm going to answer that question. I don't really know what that means, an alpha female. I guess I'm not certain. I always think of, when I think of that term, and I'm happy to hear more about what you mean, but when I think of that term, Tim, I think about like a pack, you know, there's like the alpha dog or the man. I don't, in a sense of just being absolute. So if that means confident, then yes. If that means, you know, like I said, comfortable to assert my perspective in a meeting, I think the way I would describe myself is, I never go into a situation with, I have all the answers or I'm right. I go in with curiosity. And as a leader, which I often am, I come in with giving other people in the room certainty, so that they can follow. And it's interesting, so they feel comfortable to follow, right? I would say in my experience with the men that I've worked with, I don't think that they've been intimidated. I think I personally have cultivated a style that I'm someone who's reliable, you can count on me. I develop a relationship with the people I work with. I know who they are, I know about them. So I think I'm thinking of like the last team of guys that I worked with. I don't think that they would describe me that way, but they would a strong personality. Yes, I would definitely say that. But always open and curious, I would also say, which to me I think is the mark of a good leader.
Absolutely. Absolutely. ONC, open and curious. Another question says, has your ability to parent effectively been discouraged at all, since it's been said that your son or daughter is the first generation that won't do as well as the prior generation? Consequently, what are your keys to effectively parenting?
First of all, I don't hold that belief. I think that if you're saying, will they do better financially? Maybe yes, maybe no. My personal goal is that they are self-sustaining. My girls have been, should be able to live in the style to which they are accustomed. And I expect them to make choices, because that's not my goal. And I always tell them, like, I've paid for college, you're on your own now. Now, I don't mean literally on their own. It's not that I would never help them, but I will not be paying their apartment bills. I will not be like, I've done all that, right? So again, not to say that I wouldn't be in helping them, but I won't be enabling them so that they can't stand their own 2 feet. So I would, and I think also what's important for me is so often, not just women, I mean, people in general are missing any fulfillment, right? They're working because that's what they're supposed to be doing. They're rushing from project to project, whether it be work, whether it be, church or their temple, whether it be, with their spouse and with their kids. It so often becomes, we get caught up in the doing, and it's checking a box. And so what I hope that I've inspired in my girls is that they find a way to find fulfillment in what they're doing. So, and I think that they have come to that at an earlier age than I did.
Wow. Wow. Someone says, good morning, Allyson. Pleased to hear your strength and vision today. You have the same fire today as you had in high school. Fabulous. So I guess you haven't changed one bit, huh?
I didn't see myself that way in high school, but it's interesting, Laura. Thank you for sharing that you see some of that same,
Another one person said, thank you for your service. Although what you described may have been pervasive many years ago, unfortunately, some of us are still experiencing some of the same things today.
Yeah. Now, Charmaine, I see that, Charmaine. I believe that it still goes on, unfortunately, right? We think that we've made so much progress, and we are challenged by the same things. I think the changes are coming slowly. I will say this, many years ago, when I became a first line manager at IBM, I went to the new manager school. And during all of our instruction, we had a fellow by the name of Ted Childs, who was one of the really early leaders in the space of diversity. And first of all, I thought, well, how impressive. This guy reported to Lou Gerstner, right? Who was the CEO at the time. So, I mean, imagine they have a guy who's at the nosebleed level coming to speak to the first line managers. I said, first of all, that says a lot about what IBM thought about diversity. What he shared with us was the reason IBM had such a commitment to diversity was not because it was some EEOC, right? Some requirement. It was a competitive advantage.
Say more.
Yeah. So for example, he shared with us a story about when IBM started to offer partner benefits. And this was not popular at the time. And IBM was one of the first really large companies to offer partner benefits. people were so up in arms, people meaning stockholders and just general public, that they had to have a special security force for Ted Childs and also for Lou Gersner because they were getting death threats just because they offered partner benefits. Now, that's much more common today. So depending upon how old you are, you may or may not, remember there was a time that that was really frowned upon. But the reason they did it, because they want to be competitive. They said, I don't want the best talent who may be gay to go over to the competition because I'm not providing something that all my other employees have an option to get, right? Same thing, they said the same thing when they started to hire Black people in the role of salespeople in a very early time, when those typically weren't jobs that that women or people of color had, again, because there was a changing landscape. And they wanted to make sure that they had salespeople who looked like those people they were serving. So they always did it as a competitive advantage. They wanted the best talent that they could get. And that's why they did it.
And I know that with you working with career women, sometimes you look at those women and say, you want that promotion, you got to go get it. You got to change the narrative. We're going to show a clip of you beginning to talk about that. Then I want you to finish this story after we show the clip.
Here's a news flash. You are not going to get the promotion unless you know how the game is played. I had a client who came to me and she was very frustrated because she had not gotten a promotion and she'd been overlooked a couple of years in a row. And she thought, I've been here a long time. I've done God work. Why haven't I got the promotion? In fact, I said she was frustrated. She was really frustrated by the time she got to me. In fact, she had a little story. She had a story that said the reason she didn't get the promotion was because they were being unfair and because she was a woman. So I started asking her some questions and quickly realized that she really didn't even know who all the decision makers were in terms of giving out a promotion. And she definitely didn't know who the influencers were. And at that moment, she realized that just doing good work is not enough. That alone is not what gets the promotion.
Well, continue.
Well, that's a common challenge with people, because it's, to be honest, there are the stories and beliefs that we have, they come from something, right? Again, I'm not suggesting, and I'm just going to go back to the point that Charmaine made, I'm not suggesting those problems don't still exist. They do. The challenge is when you take on that belief, it limits you from thinking of solutions. And so one of the things I'll often, when I'm working with my clients, I'll say, what would you have to believe so that you could go there, right? Let's start from there.
That's right? Huge. That's huge. Say that again. That's huge.
Yeah. So what would you have to believe for you to advance your career, let's say in this example? So we have to work on, the first thing we do is, what are the beliefs that will support you where you're going, not those that will hold you back? Because they're both available to you.
That's good.
And sometimes we don't realize just how much they're holding us back. And so we have to work on that, right?
What belief will we choose? I love it. I love it.
Yeah. And then the other thing is too, like I always say, is the great use of questions. Why is this happening to me? That's a horrible question. Why can I never get it right? It's not empowering you. So instead, if you were to ask something like, what has to happen in order for me to get the promotion? So you're starting asking that question yourself, then you're going to go to your manager. What has to happen? What are the specific steps that have to happen? Are there other people who have input? So you're just asking questions. Who are the other people who have input? Then you're going to go to them and say, what has to happen in order for me to, is there a skill that I haven't yet developed? Is there some education that I don't have, right? And once you start to understand those, now you've got a list you can work against.
That's good stuff. Good stuff. Allyson, I'm going to put you in the hot seat right now. During our show every week, we spend a minute in the hot seat. That's where we ask our guests to be prepared to share the first word that comes to your mind after I share a word.
Uh-oh, I'm
This is-
nervous. I'm nervous.
This is where you talk to think, not think to talk.
Okay,
Allyson Ward, are you ready for the hot seat?
I'm ready as I can be.
First word, leadership,
Required.
choice,
Choice is always available.
belief,
Beliefs can hold you back or set you free.
communication.
Essential to success.
You giving me sentences, I want words.
Okay, I'm sorry. Communication, vital.
Partnership,
Oh, partnership. Oh, wow. Key is the first thing that came to mind.
women,
Powerful.
strength,
Available.
fun,
Every day in every way.
diversity,
Essential.
eHarmony.
I have a story about eHarmony, actually.
That's why I gave it to you, the
Yeah.
segue into your eHarmony story.
I do have an eHarmony story. Wow, that's so funny. So thank you. That's actually a great example of beliefs. So many years ago, before I've already shared that I had a starter husband. Well, I have a real husband as well. And when my husband Jose and our dog JB down here in DC in the Wharf, thank you. And when I was between husbands, someone said, "Oh, you have to go and do the online dating thing," and I was like, "I don't know, seems like a lot." So I get on eHarmony, and when I get on eHarmony, I tell you, every time I got on there, I was like, "Oh my God, this is such a chore. This is such a chore." It's like at the end of the day, I'm tired, I've worked all day, I put the kids down, and this is a chore. And as you might imagine, I had no success, right? I don't think I went out on one date, or really, I don't remember if I even had like a long-term correspondence with anybody. Close out account. I don't know, maybe about a year later, I realized my beliefs might be impacting my outcome.
Sure.
So I just changed my belief. And I know people say, "Well, how do you just change your belief?" Well, I really just said, what belief would I have to have to be able to, and so the beliefs I had when I went back were, there's an amazing guy out there for me. I just have to find him. Another belief I had was, how cool is it that I get to be the person making the choice? I get the comfort of sitting in my own home and going through some profiles and seeing who connects with me. And like, how cool is that? Right? So I just changed my belief. It was really, really was that simple. Now, of course, I've conditioned myself
Sure.
to do that. So I'm not suggesting the first time you do that, it's like, "Oh, I'll just believe this," right? Because I realized my other belief had a huge cost to it, right? And it was actually doing that work and realizing, like, first of all, this belief is not getting me where I want to go. If I don't change this belief now, where am I going to be in 3 to 5 years?
Wow.
And that was not looking good, right? I mean, that was really not looking good for me, right? So I kind of took myself through a process of getting some pain associated to what was costing me, what that belief was costing me.
I love that you use the word belief a lot, because I encourage people when they're sharing an idea, not to say this is what I think, say this is what I believe. Believe is stronger than a thought. And you use that word very, very well. And it's I could see what you're saying.
Yeah, okay, thank you for that. Because the truth of the matter is we all have these beliefs that we've developed. The challenge is that most often, well, not most often, all of our beliefs are made unconsciously. And so it's not like I decided one day to say, I'm going to believe all people are, all men are, all managers are, all the, I didn't, I have references that have reached that belief 100%. That's why I was saying, Charmaine, it's not that it's not your experience is not accurate, you have references for what you believe. And you probably have many references, and it still doesn't make it true. So if I had the belief that all men, like if I kept a belief because of my first husband, and I said, oh, men were just not great people, and I had plenty of references, because I do have those references, right? I have plenty of references of people that I knew, either I worked with or I dated or I saw somebody else dating. I have plenty of references to say men are jerks, right? But if I held that belief, it would not get me where I'm going. If I
let's stay with that, because the question in the chat room is in the same family, same story. It says, what mindset does a woman need to have in order to be a leader in corporate or any organization? Is it different from what a man needs to have? What mindset would you espouse?
Okay, so I would say a lot of the beliefs are going to be very similar, right? You know, developing your leadership skills, having a vision for where you want to go, right? Those are some of the great skills. The ability to communicate it in such a way that enrolls other people in your vision, creating a space where people have the freedom and flexibility to try new ideas, and to fail quickly, if you will, right? All of those things are really important. And there are some beliefs that I would say a woman might want to have about what's possible. You know, no, I can break through the glass ceiling, or a woman can be as equally effective in this role as a man. So it's a question of cultivating those beliefs so that you can't, because the truth of the matter is, if I said all men are jerks, right? If I said that, again, I have a lot of references for they are. I also have references, well, I mean, we do. And the reason people have those beliefs is they came from somewhere.
Yes.
The truth of the matter is, I also have references for guys who are amazing. I've known some amazing men in my life, right? It's just that oftentimes we have a more emotional relationship with those, where we had a significant emotional event that was tied to it, that was not tied to those other ones. And that's why we remember them. And then we formulate this belief unconsciously, right? We don't even realize it's running our life.
Yeah.
We don't even realize, right? And so just quickly, what I mean on the emotional event, it's like if I were to say to you, do you know what you were doing, you know, on September 11th last year? You may or may not be able to answer the question. But if I asked you what you were doing on September 11th, 20 years ago,
yeah,
I bet you could give me a very detailed, then I did this, and then I saw the news, and then I had this feeling, and then I called this person, I wanted to make sure they were okay. And you could give me because it was a significant emotional event, right? And so you remember everything that was going on. That's the same thing when you're developing your beliefs. You really, you have those guys that were jerks. There was a significant emotional event. I didn't have all the references. Oh, guys are amazing. They're our supporters. They're my champion, our loves, you know, all of those things. I didn't have the same significant emotional event. And so then you develop, and by the way, this is not me. I didn't really think men were all jerks. That wasn't the reason. I just thought the system I didn't like. But I'm just giving an example that a lot of people can relate to, right? Or all women are gold diggers, you know. Well, you had some experiences where you met some of those women. Doesn't mean all women are that way, but you unconsciously develop a belief and you don't even realize that you have.
Every single day. Every single day. Now, time is getting away. Darn, Allyson, we talked about your 25-year corporate experience. We talked about the work you're doing with women, finding their voice. And I breezed right by the 10 years worth of work you've been doing and still doing with Tony Robbins on the big stage. We have a picture, I believe, of you helping with a session during the pandemic. Look at all this stuff. Yeah. Big screen, Zoom on steroids. What's happening here? And talk to us about the breakthroughs you've been helping people create personally and from a professional standpoint for the past 10 years.
Yeah, that I have to tell you, this was amazing, you know, and this came from belief. You know, Tony had a belief that I can still serve people, right? It's like, think about his business, for his event business, everything was just shut down. And he is so wired himself to have belief that serve. What has to happen in order for me to continue serve people at a high level? I didn't have a conversation with him about that, but I am sure that had to be one of the original questions that he had, because he's so passionate about serving people at a high level. And from that, this amazing, you can see in that top left picture, we can see the screens of all the people, and we're presenting in front of that screen. The cameras are there, but we can even see all the people around the world who are there coming to continue to grow and develop themselves. I've had the incredible fortune of working with participants at events on the personal development side. My personal passion is his business mastery programs and also the leadership development programs. And I have the great fortune of working with participants. So Tony's on stage and like really serving at a high level. And you want someone who, hey, Allyson, I get what Tony's saying. I'm not really sure how it applies to me. Have a chat. Right. And so we can have a one-on-one discussion, like the live events. And even now in the virtual world, we can have a one-on-one. Right. So I can help you to have that conversation. I also have the opportunity, as you can see here, to also present on his stage at the leadership program, which is an amazing and incredible opportunity, and really serve people all over the world.
And this next shot, is this the team you worked with at this event?
So actually, this was the lady on the left, who is amazing speaker. She does speaking on Jan Hargrave does speaking on body language. Oh, she is a pip. She's incredible. So this is some of the other trainers and facilitators who had a chance to work at that event, and we did a picture with Jan afterwards.
That is awesome, awesome. Allyson, with everything that you have going on, what's next?
Wow.
And as you consider what's next, what's something you wish you would have done sooner? So 2 questions. What's something you wish you would have done sooner, personally or professionally? And what's next for you?
Good question. So I really have been working a lot with single moms because that was a passion of mine. And I'm really shifting a bit more towards communication skills, because I think that's something that is really missing often, whether it's the ability to stand up and present on a stage, to step in with authority. And so I've really been shifting some of the work that I'm doing. In fact, I'm having kind of a master class next Thursday where women can come in, and I'm going to really talk about the system that I've developed. I mean, I realize everybody is not ready to invest in personal coaching. And so this is a way that I can serve more people. So I'll be doing that. So that's kind of what's next probably for me. And then I still do my corporate work and doing speaking training, and then also speaking on the topic. If people hire me to come in and do speaking on the topic of diversity, is another thing that so a lot of those focus. What would I wish I had done sooner? It's a good question. I think we invest so much on the things that we're supposed to do with college, and I would never give up my BA from BC or my MBA from Michigan, and I love the journey that I've been on. And we don't teach our youth or ourselves the skills that we need to be happy, how we can be fulfilled. And it wasn't until I really started, my first step into that was, 16 years ago, when I stepped into my first kind of Tony Robbins event. And so I'll say that's what it is, because it's what I've also started my daughters. My daughters, when you turn 12 in my house, you go to your first event and you walk on fire. So I wanted them to have that leg up.
Yes, I've had that experience. You mentioned several times, go blue. Take a look at what I stumbled on. You with the team going, the women's basketball team making the Sweet 16. Let's hit it.
Yeah. Yeah. Whoa. I'm so pretty and you like that.
Hey.
Right? I'm like, listen, one thing about me is I always want to have fun. If it is not fun, I don't want to do it. And with young daughters, the way that I do, that I have TikTok, Instagram stories, Reels, I'm all over it. My friends tease me, but I'm like, this is how they communicate, right? This is how they communicate. So I have to communicate in the language in which they communicate. So it's fun.
That's what I've learned over the years, having known you for a little while, that you're going to have fun. Personally, professionally, vacation-wise, you're going to have fun.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, we're at the point in the show where we ask our guests to give a mini, M-I-N-I, motivational talk. Both of us being speakers, this should come secondhand, but you didn't have time to prep. You didn't know this was coming. Think about your life, personally, professionally. Think about what you shared with your girls, your highs, your lows, your pain, your gain, your glory and your gory. Give us 60 seconds of Allyson Ward looking right at that camera, like you have thousands of people out there watching and listening, and give them some thoughts, some ideas, some food that's going to hold them over for some time. Let me fix the mic. Mic check, mic check. The next voice you hear will be that of Allyson Ward.
Whatever challenge you have the power to overcome it. No matter your darkest day, you can change things just like that. By changing the beliefs you have, the questions you ask, and the people you surround yourself with. Be sure that you're nurturing yourself daily with great water, food, and you're nurturing your mind.
Mic drop, mic drop, mic drop. Allyson, if folks want to reach out to you, in addition to finding you on YouTube, social media, where else could they go?
I would say particularly for and I love to work with men as well. I will just mention that I am having a class next Thursday, specifically for the women, and just a master class. There's no charge for it. And I would say right now, just shoot me an email, and it's Allyson, ALLYSON, at thecapstonegroup.us, and I can just get you enrolled in that class. That's the best way, and anybody can email me there. I love what I get to do. I feel that it's a great privilege and honor to do it, and I love connecting with people and helping them see what's possible.
You talk about privilege and honor. We're privileged, and it's an honor to have you on the show. You've done so much, and you haven't even gotten started yet. I know your best is yet to come. So thank you, Allyson, for coming on the Dr. James Show. And I'll be in touch. I'll be in touch. And actually, we'll put in the chat room the agreement model, or have them reach out to you if they want the agreement feedback model. That way you can share it with them as well.
No, we ran out of time. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Again, I keep telling you, we did it again. I did it again. Transformational, informational, some food for your belief system. Now go do something about it. And remember, you've just been Gym-Pacted.